Josh McDaniels back in New England. Your thoughts?
I had an inkling to this very early yesterday, and very ecstatic. He's my guy. It's the guy I wanted. Not just because you know Josh. We all know Josh, right? It's because we got a quarterback, and I want the quarterback to be able to grow year to year to year. And I want him to understand, and I want him to learn. Talent-wise, he's a very good kid. This is different than the rookie year of Mac Jones. Mac Jones, not as supremely talented as Drake May. Pretty good head on him. And Josh, I think, got the most out of him. Josh got the most out of Cam Newton, or whatever we want to call that year, what that year was. But I don't really like to reflect to that. I know what he did with Brady. We all know that. But there's other things, like it's the Matt Castle year, and it's just he's not going to force him. I know this for a fact. He will not force him to run the Brady offense. That was Tom's offense. They took that thing to another level. Josh is smart. He understands the league. Christ, I remember last year during the interview process, he talks to all these guys getting interviewed. Like, offensive coordinators and play callers in the league talk as much as head coaches talk within the league. Like, that's how you study tape. You hear the way McVay grew and what he would do and how he would watch Belichick. Man, it's so amazing how you guys change week to week, and we want to get to that. And you always try to adapt your game. If Josh feels that Drake is better off, terminology-wise, running a West Coast style offense, Josh will morph to that. That's how good he is. Because conceptually, it's football. It's either 3 wide, 2 tight end, double back or single back, or if you want to get exotic, here we go with the motions and all that. Like, here are all these teams getting ready to play Jane Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury. And they're like, it's a pretty basic offense they run, but they really dress it up. Okay, well, why can't you cover it if it's so basic? It's the ability to move people. And this is where Josh is going to get people on it. Like, he's going to be able to advance things with Drake. Once Drake gets certain concepts down, it's like, what are you going to do next? What are we going to anticipate? What are we seeing as a defense? I just wonder last year, and I know AVP did a good job with Drake getting him week to week. How much did he sit down? How much did he talk coverage? How much did he talk about what do you anticipate in second quarter, third quarter? If we do this, they're going to do this. And it's just that multitude of everything Josh has been through. And I know he had some rough spots. I know he wasn't great in St. Louis. It didn't work out with the Raiders. Denver was great at the beginning. Then he hit a flat tire. He's a play caller. He's not a head coach. He's a really, really freaking good offensive coordinator. He's the most qualified guy that was out there, and they got him. That's the way I look at that.
Yeah, here's why Patriots fans should be excited. This is somebody who has developed young quarterbacks before.
Yes.
And I think the most pertinent year to look at is the Mac Jones year. Because we have a decent idea of what Mac Jones is now.
Yes.
Right?
Not much.
And for him to be able to win 10 games with Mac Jones and have him as the runner-up for Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and actually the favorite for that award for the vast majority of that year, I think that says a lot. And he was able to leverage Mac Jones's greatest strength, which was his ability to process and his ability to take control of things at the line of scrimmage. I think you should also be excited because he is adaptable. He is not a one speed, one gear, one offense kind of guy. And he showed it here in New England. He can make him a spread team the way he did in 2007. He can make him a 2 tight end team. He can make him a fullback team to win a Super Bowl back in 2018,
yep.
Which is what he did. And you can make him a running quarterback kind of offense. And you're going to see some of that sprinkled in, which we saw with Cam Newton. Zoe doesn't want to talk about Cam Newton. The Cam Newton year is applicable here.
They finished 4th in rushing yards that year and 3rd in attempts.
It's applicable.
Yeah.
There was no 2-minute. He didn't force Cam Newton to do a 2-minute. He knew we weren't able to run a 2-minute offense. We won't have one. We'll go on one knee and huddle.
But the running quarterback stuff is in his bag. It's not necessarily the Brady offense. And so that, to me, is important. I would not start with the one thing I won't start with when it comes to why you should be excited about him, McCone, is, well, he's going to be here a long time. I think that's a nice side benefit. It's a nice side, honestly.
Yeah. He's been there, done it. Right.
If you have a great offensive coordinator and he leaves for a head coaching gig, not great for your offense. But that's not why you should be hiring the guy. That's not why he should be the choice. Whoever gets this job should be the choice because they're the right person for the job, because they're going to get the offense going. They're going to be able to take whatever they're given to work with and maximize it. So a lot of people point to that first. Well, if they do well, he's not going to take a head coaching job somewhere else.
You're going to have a coordinator.
Well,
yeah.
To me, having an offensive coordinator that's not a desirable head coach other places is not the number one reason to like the guy.
Yes, 100%.
I really don't want to hire a guy just because he's young and he's never called a play, but he's on the upswing.
No,
You
and I
have
think
the
that's
experience.
fair too,
Yeah.
though. But that's where I get to take the right guy.
Yes.
And I think McDaniels is the right guy for this job. I do.
And everybody keeps saying this too when I get giddy with the McDaniels. Like, well, he's the pocket passer, play caller. I'm like, you forget how enamored he was with Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield during the draft, and how they crept up draft boards, and he would take last minute flights to go work these guys out because the Patriots are in on those guys. Like, he desired that.
They weren't taking a quarterback in the first round that year. I know what the reports were. They weren't taking a quarterback.
Okay, I'm just taking it from what the agent says.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They weren't taking a quarterback that year. That's my understanding
I
of it.
never thought they would take
as much as
quarterback
he
high
might have
either.
liked those guys, and I believe that he liked those guys.
Shoot, I'm shocked they took Mac at 15. I just didn't think they'd ever take quarterbacks that high.
I wanted a coordinator, though, that's coming in that's going to maximize the talent that is given to him.
Yes.
And I think that Josh McDaniels has the ability to do it. Phil, you just hit on all those examples. I also think 2016 is an example.
Yes.
The start of that. Jimmy Garoppolo, and then
Thank
the
you.
games with Jacoby Brissett as well. Not asking Jacoby Brissett as a rookie to come in and, again, run the Tom
Dude,
Brady
he had
offense.
Garoppolo ready to go.
Yes. Putting young quarterbacks in a position to actually be successful and play to their strengths. And I think time and time again, you have seen that Josh McDaniels throughout his career has put his young quarterbacks or his quarterbacks as a whole in positions to be successful. And I think as a hire, to your point, like him being here long term is not necessarily the sell point I want. I want someone that's going to come in here and maximize Drake May and the offense that he's given.
You already have a much better hierarchy as far as who the head coach is, who your leader of the offense is, and now we know who the leader of the defense is, who's worked with Mike for 5 years. So now the structure's being put in. So now you got a pecking order. Feels like you have real coaches in the room.
Yeah, you're not waiting to develop guys at the key spots, which is what last year was, right? For everybody. Alex Van Pelt, really, first time, full-time play caller.
Yep.
First time head coach, rookie quarterback. The Krafts don't want to wait. They don't want to go through another
No.
build it up kind of year, even though they might have to take it on the chin to a degree because the talent is where it is. But at the coaching spots, you have two guys, though, that are really ready to go.
Right. And I mean, they're going to be ready to go from the day these guys report in March. See, that's the biggest thing here is I do believe the reports, and I've talked to guys that have been through those OTAs a year ago in those practices where they were looking around going, oh, wow, we don't know what the hell we're doing.
Still figuring it out.
Still figuring it out because, and I feel like I keep bringing it up, remember, the staff bumped it back even another week because they were still getting to know each other when the days they were supposed to report. They reported a week later than the other teams. So, like, that was all in play. We didn't realize it. But when you show up, they're going to have a schedule ready for you to go. They're going to make you do A, B, C, D, and E. And you're going to start watching this, and we're going to start installing this, and you're going to have a real system up and ready to go. And that's exciting.
Is this Mike Vrabel's guy, or is this the Kraft's guy that's coming in?
It's a good question, and I understand people are going to ask that, and it shouldn't be looked at that way. What I understand is there's going to be some sort of renegotiation back with the Raiders because, okay, so this is what you're supposed to get, and say it's the $40 million. Now just go off into the sunset, don't work, you're going to get that, blah, blah, blah. But all of a sudden, if you told us, hey, you want to eventually coach somewhere, maybe not be a head coach, but become a coordinator again, well, then let's come circle back. Let's see what they're going to pay you, and then we'll have a renegotiation as to what our end pay will be to you because now you want to work again. So they're not going to stop him from working, but I don't think it'll be on full salary from Raiders. I don't think that's what you're going to find out here.
Yeah, typically you've got these offsets in these coaches' contracts, right? So he'll get paid something by the Patriots, and then the Raiders essentially make up the difference. Now, maybe there's a little
It's
bit
not
of
going to be by like
negotiation there.
Brett Bilma from Arkansas, where you're paying him $1 and they end up suing you.
Right. Well, the other thing to keep in mind here, too, is when he's given the offensive coordinator title, by league rule, you have to pay him a salary commensurate with that job.
Right.
And those jobs, obviously, generally speaking, are paid pretty well. Now, will he be in the $3, $4, $5 million range?
Should be in the $4 million plus range.
You're at the top of the market when it comes to offensive coordinators. Like, my understanding was Alex Van Pelt was a shade under $3 million this past year,
Josh could be over $4.
which actually paid him near the top of the league in terms of offensive coordinator salaries.
Really?
So, are they just going to carry that salary over and just give that to Josh McDaniels, and now he's making up the difference with his head coaching salary in Vegas? It'll be something along those lines. What they could do, because it makes no difference one way or the other to McDaniels, it's the same amount coming in. It's just a question of which team it's coming from. You could pay him at the very low end of the offensive coordinator scale, league-wide, and then have the Raiders make up the rest until he's no longer under contract for the Raiders, right? So if the low end is, say it's $1 million to to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL. The Patriots could pay him $1 million. Raiders could make up the difference. To me, it doesn't really matter either way, although it matters to the Krafts.
Yes.
What I have heard from people in the league that are in these circles, those talking earlier about how offensive coordinators talk to each other, everybody's in these circles, and people that had interest in this job, others who already have offensive coordinator positions, have assumed McDaniels would be the guy since even before Mike Vrabel was hired. Now, they assumed Mike Vrabel would be hired as well. If Ben Johnson, for instance, was hired, he wouldn't be bringing on Josh McDaniels to be his offensive coordinator. But the point being, people around the league looked at this situation. They looked at McDaniels and his relationship with the Krafts, and they said, well, that's going to happen.
He's been there multiple times. He's a very good offensive coordinator. He works really well with quarterbacks, and now you finally found a quarterback post-Brady.
Is that a problem, though, Zoe? If this decision was in any way driven by ownership, is that a problem? Like, if Mike Vrabel goes to Chicago, I don't think Josh McDaniels is following him to Chicago.
Yes, I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe that's true.
Well,
I don't think that's happening.
We just heard Mike Reese with Felger and Metz a couple days ago talk about how, other than the coach-player relationship that these two have had, there's no history of those two coaching together, and it doesn't feel like a Mike Vrabel guy in terms of Josh McDaniels.
So is that an issue? Not in terms of the person you chose, because again, I think McDaniels is a good choice for this job.
100%.
But in terms of how the organization is operating, if ownership in any way had a say in this call, is that how it should be, Zoe?
What are the problems on the team? Like, I think that's, like, if you look at Chicago, like you bring up Chicago's loaded, and you got the quarterback, and you got those 3 stud receivers at tight end. Mike would probably go in there and bring in anybody. Mike might almost need Josh to help him fix what else this offense. You need 2 tackles. You need a guard. You need another running back. You need 4 receivers. Like, I think Mike might look at this situation and rely more heavily on Josh to help fix this, the offense, than he would bring it in a young up-and-comer whippersnapper that's 28 that is going to walk in and go, what tackle? Josh has been around the league. He knows what tackles work. He knows what systems work, what schemes work with the certain personnel you have. I think Mike may look at this offense and, like, we are so in over our head, I need Josh's help. I need an experienced guy that can help get this thing out of the gutter. Because right now, you got the quarterback. That's about it. You got to put all those other 10 pieces in play. And I think this helps out Mike. I think Mike needs his help here.
So there are 2 things that kind of stick out to me with this whole hire that still have me somewhat concerned from a Patriots perspective. The first is the dynamics that you just talked about. If the offensive coordinator is being forced on the head coach, I do think while there's no question there's been a coaching upgrade in the organization, I think it starts to open the doors up to what you saw a couple of years ago in the dysfunction that took place within the organization, where you have a bunch of people maybe potentially pulling in different directions because they aren't each other's guys, right? So if Josh McDaniels has been implemented by ownership and he's not Mike Vrabel's guy and things go south, do you have competing factions within the organization? Same concerns you have with Elliott Wolf still being in the front office. And then the second thing is kind of what Zoe was talking about. Job's not done, right? So we saw a couple years ago when you bring in Bill O'Brien as an offensive coordinator, yes, great resume, great coach, but if there's no talent on the offensive side of the ball, you're still very limited in terms of what that ceiling's going to be. Now, again, you have Drake May, but you still have to have a monster offseason to upgrade this offense. But in terms of the Josh McDaniels aspect with ownership, that would be my concern. If in fact he was given to Mike Vrabel, I just think that opens the door to more dysfunction here moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think he would be forced on Vrabel, because Vrabel would see McDaniels for what he is, which is a great offensive coordinator candidate. Experienced guy, experienced quarterback developer, all of the things that make him the right choice, in my opinion, for the job. But I just wonder how that conversation goes, and I don't know how that conversation went. But you have that conversation during the interview process, okay? What are you thinking in terms of coordinators? And, you know, where is McDaniels on Vrabel's list? If he's got a list of 4 guys that he likes, is he number 1? Is he at the top? Or is he 4? And are there 3 guys that Vrabel's actually worked with in the past that he's loyal to, that are younger guys that maybe he's had conversations with when it comes to this type of thing? Hey, when I get my next job, you're going to be my guy because you've done such a great job for me, and I want to be loyal to you, and I want to see you blossom in this bigger role that you've never had before. Like, that's a lot of times how these operations
You're talking
work.
about like a Tommy Reese guy. Like, maybe with Tommy Reese getting plucked away and Cleveland being smart, snagging him and elevating him, that, okay, then I'm going with Josh now. Like that, it could have been down to him and Josh.
I just wonder if on the other side of the table, ownership says something along the lines of, what do you think about Josh? We would really love it if you would have Josh in and make him the guy.
Yeah.
Or did they say, we just make sure you interview Josh. We don't care who you pick. Just make sure he's part of the conversation. I just wonder, like, how much of a driving factor were they when it came to this particular gig? Because if it was forcing, number one, that would surprise me on Vrabel's end. I don't see him being amenable to being forced into doing anything.
But I think he would have to be aware of, like, and if you're ownership, you should be in the right to say, hey, we had a first-round quarterback here that looked really good his rookie year with this guy. And we trusted Bill when Josh got plucked away and went to the Raiders to go with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge as the coordinators. And it killed him. We can't ever go through that again. And it's took us a while to get back here. We've had 2 really bad years. And we threw a staff together on a whim a year ago. It was all misfits put together. And we got a really good quarterback, and we don't want to F this up. And we know Josh has coached those other quarterbacks well, and we don't want to go back to the way these previous offenses were. We know he runs a good one. I'm just telling you, but if you need help picking one. I don't know.
No, hey, it's their team.
You're the owner.
Though.
It's your right.
It's their team.
It's your right.
And so it is their right. And it would be Vrabel's right at that point where he hasn't yet accepted the job to say, you know what, I appreciate it, but if you really feel that way about that guy, and I like Josh, don't get me wrong, but I have these other guys that I have in mind, then maybe this isn't the job for me. He obviously took the job. So there had to have been some sort of understanding.
That's already talked
if
about.
There was an understanding previously as to who his offensive coordinator would be. I just look at it, these are 2 strong personalities.
Oh, yeah.
These are one former head coach, one current head coach. Guys who have a certain way of doing things that they like. Are you inviting any sort of conflict in a way that you're hoping to avoid? Conflict can be fun.
No,
but
Josh.
Are you inviting that at all if there was a driving factor in ownership when it came to this hire?
If there wasn't 2 previous failed head coaching experiences out there on his resume, I think he knows he's a play caller. I think he's excited. I know he's more than excited to get back and work with this quarterback. Like, that's a given.
Sure.
And I just think he knows his place. And I think out of respect for ownership, he would never do that to Mike. That's what Mike's got going for him. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Kraft and Jonathan would not want any turmoil within their staff.
Well, he's the boss, right?
The boss.
And he'll let you know.
Mike's the boss. Mike's the boss. Remember that.
And in some ways, I think he'll want Josh to take control of the offense. As you mentioned before, there's so many things
Josh,
to
I need
fix
help
here.
here.
It is nice to have sort of a, we use this term with Alex Van Pelt. I know Mayo did. Have a head coach offense. You know, it is nice to have that.
That's what I'm saying. If you got the 4 receivers, if you got the tight end in the back, and you got the quarterback, and it's all West Coast, and the other guy left and went on to another gig, you bring in a West Coast guy and it's turnkey. This thing ain't turnkey. It ain't anything near turnkey. But you got the biggest piece you need. And you got the right guy that knows how to work with those pieces. Hey, if you like that clip, check out more videos from Zolak and Bertrand right here. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.